rhythm of life on the outs, as the inmates refer to it, where people have jobs and vehicles and are able to pay to keep the lights on and the phone connected. Jobs are nearly impossible for them to get, and I get it, people don't want to hire convicts, even those who have served the time required of them. The thing is, I also get it, that if you can swing a drug deal and in one night make the same amount it would take you a month to make at a minimum wage job, not that anyone will hire you for that job, it's hard to pass up the opportunity. Especially if the rent is due and your spouse took off and left you with the kids, and your PG&E will be turned off in 3 days, and besides, you'd get a taste of whatever you are selling, and for a blissful bit of time, it might take away all the shitty feelings that you're having about yourself. The mind, Emerson wrote, once stretched by a new idea, never returns to its original dimensions. I think that many former inmates have worked hard to shift their original dimensions, only to discover that the world is too frightened and suspicious to notice. And who can blame us? We are all trying to live on this planet together, and we have to share it, even with people who have done bad things, worse things than even we ourselves have done. Knowing our own potential for dark thoughts and bad deeds makes us look at others with a careful eye. We think we know what evil lurks there. My first day teaching my own class, I came loaded with pictures torn from magazines the women could use to decorate and personalize their composition books. After a bureaucratic process typical of the jail, I'd gotten permission for the women to take their notebooks back to their pods. Pods are the housing areas where the women live. In this county jail, there are usually about 36 women in a pod. 4 women share a cell, which consists of nothing more than the 4 bunks, a sink, 1 shelf, and a toilet. The toilet is just inches away from the left bottom bunk. I learned from the women that typically the cellmates pool account money together to get a highly priced sheet from the commissary, which they use as a curtain to drape around the toilet. They call it a courtesy screen. I had permission to bring in glue sticks, counted out, so the woman could tear up the pictures, no scissors allowed, and stick them on their composition books. While I was waiting for the women to arrive, I wrote a quote from Emerson on a smudged whiteboard. We are continuously invited to be who we are. I arranged the notebooks, the glue sticks, magazine pictures, and the tiny golf pencils, the only ones the inmates are allowed to use, at a table we could all sit around, 5 female inmates and me. I took a deep breath. I said a prayer. Then the door burst open, and in they came. Ashley was first to the door, and she announced their arrival. "We're here," she called out, then asked, "Hey, what's that smell?" She walked right up to me and breathed in deeply. "Oh my gosh," Ashley said, turning to the other women. "She's wearing body spray." Ashley is a 26-year-old woman with long dark hair. She is very fair-skinned with a pretty soft smile. "Come over here and smell her," she said. And they did. All 5 of them gathered around me and inhaled. 2 women whispered to one another, then pointed at my feet. "We like your shoes," one of them said. We sat at the little table and started picking out magazine pictures and putting them in stacks. I realized immediately that the magazine thing was a pretty good idea, because as they chose pictures they liked, I got to learn a little something about each of them. Robin loves puppies in Mexico. Ashley likes hearts and Jesus. Jennifer cut out the words "bad brains," saying that the phrase describes her perfectly. Ashley held up a picture of a shirtless man with a muscled torso, and Victoria quickly replied, "Don't give me no pictures of men." She reached across the table to grab a different picture. "What's that? A chicken? Give me that. Chickens are hella more useful than men, and that's church." Crystal had just delivered a baby 2 days before this class. She didn't talk much, but was looking for pictures of mothers and babies together, not apart, she said quietly. I took the women's journals home with me to give them what I call ghetto lamination. It's just big clear tape and strips that cover the entire surface. It protects the pictures, waterproofs them actually, and kind of sort of gives the notebooks the look of being laminated. Crystal didn't send her journal home with me. She was called to court in the middle of our session and took her journal with her. She didn't know if she would be sent to prison before our next meeting, and she didn't want to lose her journal, where she had already started writing a letter to her newborn baby. For For the next meeting with the women, I brought in colored pencils. I was taking a graphic novel class and thought it would be great to have the women write their own graphic memoirs or portray themselves as superheroes in their own stories. I also brought in a small tape gun loaded up with clear tape. I was hoping Crystal hadn't been sent away and that she would be there with her journal so I could laminate it for her during class. She was facing 12 years for carjacking. Her baby would almost be a teenager by the time of her release. That morning, the women entered our classroom with a noticeable increase in energy, even though no one had slept much the night before, because 3 women had been pulled from their cells to be released. They all got an early kick, Victoria told me. We were so excited, the whole pod was helping them get ready to go, and they were all passing out their stuff. Crystal was there, and her hair was all done up, not in the usual braids or ponytail. It was curly and more red than I remembered. She told me the method she'd used for doing her hair before her court hearing that day. To get the desired curls, she coated her hair with strawberry jam mixed with the watery lotion available from the commissary, then diligently wrapped each curl of hair around her finger. Once it dried, it was stiff and shiny and red, amazing looking really. Crystal told me she'd gotten up early to do her hair so she could still come to the writing group. The inmates never know what time they will be called to court, and she wanted to be prepared in case they came to get her during class. While the women were drawing and coloring pictures of themselves as superheroes, I pulled out my tape gun to laminate Crystal's journal. I was wrapping the journal with the clear tape, thinking about the fact that I might not ever see Crystal again if she was sent away to prison, when I realized the women had stopped writing or drawing and were all looking at me. Ashley nudged Victoria and said, "Look what she brought in here. It's got that jagged metal edge and shit." And indeed it's true. My tape gun has a very sharp edge for cutting the strong tape. "Do they know you brought that in?" Victoria asked me. The stupidity of my actions hit me pretty quickly. "Well," I said feebly, "not exactly. I wanted to do Crystal's journal, in case she's leaving." The women just kept looking at me, looking at the tape gun, and then back at me. I was halfway done with the journal, so I finished wrapping it. Nobody said another word about it, and I put the tape gun back in my bag and went on with the class, hoping I hadn't blown it entirely. During that class time, I learned that Robin would likely be released very soon. She had signed a deal, a 4-year lid. A lid means that you sign a contract saying that you will not get in any trouble at all for the time set. In Robin's case, 4 years. If you do get in trouble, you will automatically be sentenced to, in Robin's case, 25 years. Robin was ready to sign for that deal because she has worked hard in her 17 years of incarceration, keeping good behavior, and even earning certificates for courses